Welcome to Hockeywiztalks podcast. Today I'll be talking about the leading scorers in the NHL, the NHL standings update, and the NBA GOAT debate. Leading scorers in the NHL. Top point scorers are Nikita Kucherov with 88, Patrick Kane and Connor McDavid tied with 82, Johnny Gaudreau with 77, Mikko Rantanen with 75, Nathan MacKinnon with 74, and Braden Point with 72. Top goal scorers are Alex Ovechkin with 38, Jeff Skinner with 34, John Tavares, Leon Draisaitl, Braden Point, and Patrick Kane tied with 33, Cam Atkinson, David Pastrnak, and Connor McDavid tied with 31. Joe Pavelski, Steven Stamkos, and Mark Scheifele tied with 30. Players with the most assists: Nikita Kucherov with 63, Blake Wheeler with 56, Brent Burns with 52, Mikko Rantanen and Connor McDavid tied with 51, Patrick Kane with 49, Johnny Gaudreau with 48, and Mitch Marner and Brad Marchand tied with 47. David Pastrnak with 29, Nathan MacKinnon with 28, Keith Yandel, Steven Stamkos, and Braden Point with 27, Mikko Rantanen and Connor McDavid with 26, and Patrick Kane with 25. Goalies with the most wins: Marc-Andre Fleury has 29, Martin Jones has 27, Frederik Andersen and Connor Hellebuyck have 26, Carey Price, Sergei Bobrovsky, and Andrei Vasilevskiy have 23. Goals against leaders: these goalies have to play at least 20 games to qualify. Robin Lehner with a 2.08 GAA, Thomas Greiss with a 2.28 GAA, Ben Bishop with a 2.30 GAA, Anton Khudobin with a 2.34 GAA, and Tuukka Rask with a 2.38 GAA. Save percentage leaders: these goalies need to play at least 20 games to qualify. Robin Lehner with a .929 save percentage, Anton Khudobin and Thomas Greiss with a .927 save percentage, Andrei Vasilevskiy with a .925 save percentage, Ben Bishop with a .924 save percentage, Frederik Andersen with a .923 save percentage. Shutout leaders: Marc-Andre Fleury with 6, Andrei Vasilevskiy has 4, and 10 other goalies have 3. And now, a word from our sponsor. And we're back on the Hockeywiztalks podcast. Right now, I'll be talking about the NHL standings update. Eastern Conference. In the Metropolitan Division, the New York Islanders are in first place. They have 72 points. The Washington Capitals are in second place in the Metro Division. They have 69 points. And the Columbus Blue Jackets are in third place in the Metro Division. They have 67 points. In the Atlantic Division, the Tampa Bay Lightning are in first place. They have 88 points. The Toronto Maple Leafs are in second place. They have 73 points. And the Boston Bruins are in third place in the Atlantic Division. They have 72 points. The first wild card spot in the Eastern Conference goes to the Montreal Canadiens. They have 69 points. The second wild card spot in the Eastern Conference goes to the Pittsburgh Penguins. They have 67 points. On the outside looking in are the Carolina Hurricanes, the Buffalo Sabres, the Philadelphia Flyers, the New York Rangers, the Florida Panthers, Detroit Red Wings, New Jersey Devils, and the Ottawa Senators. Western Conference standings. In the Central Division, the Winnipeg Jets are in first place. They have 75 points. The Nashville Predators are in second place. They have 71 points. And the Dallas Stars are in third place. They have 63 points. In the Pacific Division, the San Jose Sharks are in first place. They have 75 points. The Calgary Flames are in second place. They have 74 points. And the Vegas Golden Knights are in third place in the Pacific Division. They have 66 points. The St. Louis Blues have the first wild card spot in the Western Conference. They have 61 points. The Minnesota Wild hold the second wild card spot in the Western Conference. They have 59 points. On the outside looking in are the Vancouver Canucks, Arizona Coyotes, Colorado Avalanche, Chicago Blackhawks, Edmonton Oilers, Anaheim Ducks, and the LA Kings. And now a word from our sponsor. Welcome back to Hockeywiztalks podcast. Now I'll be talking about the NBA GOAT debate. The players who are usually a part of the debate are Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Russell, and Kobe Bryant. Michael Jordan won 6 championships and 6 finals MVPs. He is also a 5-time regular season MVP and has won 10 scoring titles. Jordan is also a 9-time All-Defensive First Team selection. It wasn't always smooth sailing for Jordan. Before winning the 1991 championship, Jordan lost in the first round 3 times and twice in the second round. Once Jordan was able to figure out how to win with the help of Phil Jackson, Jordan only lost 1 time for the remainder of his career. Jordan has no weakness in his game and is in most people's eyes the best clutch time performer in the history of the game. LeBron James has won 3 championships and 3 finals MVPs along with 4 regular season MVPs and is a 5-time All-Defensive First Team selection. LeBron James has been amazing since his first game in the league and has dragged mediocre teams to the finals before. A major stain on his resume is the meltdown he had against the Dallas Mavericks in 2011. He is also 3-6 in the finals, which really hurts his case for being the greatest of all time. Magic Johnson has won 5 championships and 3 finals MVPs, along with 3 regular season MVPs, and led the NBA in assists 4 times. Magic Johnson was amazing from his first game as an LA Laker and turned the franchise completely around. He changed the culture of the Lakers and turned them into Showtime. The one thing that hurts Magic Johnson's case for being the GOAT is that he's forever tied with Larry Bird. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has 6 championships and 2 Finals MVPs, along with 6 regular season MVPs. He's also a 5-time All-Defensive First Team selection and led the NBA in blocks 4 times. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was dominant at every level he played at. Kareem had the most unblockable shot in NBA history called the skyhook, and he used it to terrorize NBA teams, and he eventually became the NBA's all-time leading scorer. Old school fans will say that Kareem is the GOAT because of championships and longevity in the league. Bill Russell has won 11 championships and 5 regular season MVPs. He also led the NBA in rebounding 4 times. Bill Russell is without a doubt the winningest player in NBA history. Even though Russell wasn't a prolific offensive weapon, he was an excellent defender, rebounder, and shot blocker. Because Russell's offensive numbers weren't as prolific as some other players on this list, he gets overlooked in the GOAT debate. Kobe Bryant won 5 championships and 2 Finals MVPs, along with 1 regular season MVP and 2 scoring titles. He is also a 9-time All-Defensive First Team selection. Kobe Bryant is in this conversation because of his role on the LA Lakers championships teams. Kobe was held back a little from reaching his true potential in his early years, but he finished his career as one of the greats. Realistically, Kobe could range anywhere from being the 2nd greatest player of all time to the 9th. Players who are left out of the debate are Larry Bird, Wilt Chamberlain, Tim Duncan, and Shaquille O'Neal. Larry Bird won 3 championships, 2 Finals MVPs, 3 regular season MVPs, and is a 9-time All-Defensive First Team selection. From 1980 to 1986, Larry Bird would lead the Boston Celtics to 3 championships in 6 years. From 1980 to 1988, Bird was recognized as one of the best players in the league along with Magic Johnson. The one thing that hurts Larry Bird's case for being the greatest player of all time is that injuries limited him to only 13 NBA seasons. Wilt Chamberlain was the most dominant player in the NBA and forced the NBA to change a lot of rules. He still holds numerous NBA records and is the only player in NBA history to score 100 points in a game. His lack of playoff success is why he isn't generally in the GOAT debate. Tim Duncan won 5 championships and 3 Finals MVPs, along with 2 regular season MVPs, and is a 13-time All-Defensive First Team selection. Before Tim Duncan got to San Antonio, they never won anything. He turned them into a winning franchise along with Greg Popovich. Because of how little buzz is generated in San Antonio, he rarely gets talked about when talking about the greatest players of all time, which is rather unfortunate because he's the best power forward of all time. Shaquille O'Neal won 4 championships and 3 Finals MVPs, along with 2 scoring titles. Even though Shaq is considered one of the greatest centers of all time, he kind of underachieved in his career. From 1996 to 2004, Shaq was considered the most dominant player in the league, but he got lazy and didn't keep in shape. It is hard to put Shaq in the greatest player of all time conversation because he underachieved so much in his career. And now, a word from our sponsor. Welcome back to Hockeywiztalks podcast. Now I'll be talking about why you can't compare eras. You can't compare eras because there are different rules and different strategies involved. You can't compare LeBron James to Michael Jordan because in Jordan's era, it was more physical and there's hand checking. In LeBron's era, it's less physical and there's no hand checking. The same thing applies for Wilt and Shaq. If Wilt were able to have the freedom that Shaq did, being as physical as he was, he would be so much more dominant. How would Shaq fare in the 60s with the rules in place to restrict his dominance? You really can't compare these two players because the league was so different. In the 80s and early 90s, teams like the Bad Boy Pistons and New York Knicks were notorious for the rough play. Rough play is now no longer tolerated and the players would be fined and suspended. The main point is that comparing players from different eras is pointless because there's no way to tell how a certain player will do in a different era. It is also dumb to compare players from different eras because teams used different strategies back in the day. Back then, the league was center dominant. Now, the league is guard dominant. Also, now the league is so dependent on the three-point shot. Back then, they may have not even counted three-pointers. In today's game, the best players in the league are either guards or forwards. Back in the 60s and early 2000s, it was all about the centers. The Golden State Warriors have changed the game with movement they have on offense, as well as their three-point shooting. The Dynasty Chicago Bulls were an excellent defensive team that were also able to turn up the score. Teams build teams to match the team that is dominant, so now the teams are focused on three-point shooting rather than defense. Instead of comparing players from different eras, you should be comparing players from the same era. 1, because they played against each other, and 2, because they have a personal rivalry against each other. Good examples are Bird vs. Magic. There is no clear winner, they are equal. Russell vs. Chamberlain. Chamberlain is the better player, but Russell had a better team. Kobe versus Duncan. Kobe and Duncan both have 5 championships, but Duncan was the main guy in all 5 championships. LeBron versus Kevin Durant. Some say that LeBron is the best in the league, but in the last 2 matchups, KD bested LeBron. In my opinion, the players that have the greatest case for being the greatest player of all time are Michael Jordan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Magic Johnson. The greatest player of all time debate is really a topic of conversation brought out by the media, because you can go back and forth on it for a long time, but in reality, there is no way to truly say who the greatest player of all time is when you are comparing players from different eras. On my next podcast, I'll be talking about the NHL trade deadline deals, and I'll be comparing the Golden State Warriors to Jordan's Chicago Bulls.